Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Chapter 13, beginning at the 24th verse. Jesus put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." The slaves then said to him, "Then do you want us to go out and gather the weeds?" But he replied, "No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at the harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into the barn." Then he left the crowds and went into the house. And Jesus' disciples approached him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field." Jesus answered, "The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of evil one, and the enemy, or who sowed them, is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all who causes of sin and evildoers, and they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
May the words of my lips and the thoughts of our hearts come from you, O Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. How often do we look at the parables of Jesus and see ourselves? That is, we see the selves we want to be, the things we wish we could be. Now, as I said last week, we are looking at Matthew 13 3 times in a row. Part 1, part 2, part 3, 3 Sundays in a row. Last week, we looked at the parable of the sower and of the soil, the seeds being planted. We probably all thought of ourselves as that good soil. Similarly, we look today at the story of the wheat and the weeds. So we're probably thinking of ourselves as the wheat, perhaps not the weeds. We focus on what we assume are the good characteristics and apply them to ourselves. After all, we're ready for the kingdom. Doesn't being a member of a church prove that? Because we see about ourselves the things we want to see. But then our eyes can deceive us. Remember with me for a moment what it used to be like when we actually took photographs with a camera. Not like we do today with a cell phone, when you take photos and you can take them and retake them until you get them like you want them. Remember when we actually owned cameras and you took your photos and then you had your film developed or you took it to your computer screen, and then you, after the fact, many weeks or days after the fact, you saw the actual photograph. And that's when you realized that it was distorted, or the colors weren't quite what you thought they were, or you had a third person's head in the background that you had missed, or something wasn't quite right about this, what you thought was a perfect photograph. It's not perfect. The camera never lies, so they say. Something was wrong. That's the way it is with life. It's easy to see yourself as the wheat. point the finger, label, and be the judge. It's easy to see other persons as the wrong and us as the right. When relationships trouble happens, we see it's easy to put them down. They're the ones with the personality problems, the attitude problem. They're the ones that hold the grudge. We excuse ourselves because of outstanding circumstances or other factors. The others were the ones with the flaw, not us. It's easy to judge our lives on the us and the them, the good and the bad, the kind and the cruel, the wheat and the tares, the wheat and the weeds. It's an unsophisticated reality. But I want to look a little more closely at what we don't realize with our two English words, wheat and weeds. Particularly that second word, weeds, and what our English translation has done to that word, weeds. Another translation is the word tares, or the word dardanelles. Then we look at it as a word for false wheat. I want you to look at a picture with me. I'm going to ask my photographer to get a little closer. This is two images. One of them is wheat, early in its growing. The other one is weeds, tares, dardanelles. Look how closely they look like the same thing. If you were someone walking around a field and you wanted to pull only the weeds, only the dardanelles, could you tell the difference, one from the other? It's very hard to tell the difference at that stage. Now, if you let them grow together, we've all seen fields of wheat. When it's fully grown, it becomes brown and full and plump. We know what that looks like. But that weed, that particular tare, dardanelle, that particular dardanelle becomes black and skinny and thin. It doesn't grow the same way. It also becomes poisonous if you eat it. You become sick to your stomach. Yes, it's not what you want to get. But you don't know that when they both look like this. They look the same. Not something you want to do. It's not our choice. We don't get to judge the wheat from the weeds. That's a detail that we don't get to make. So where is this evil located, these evil weeds, this evil dardanelle? Is it found far away, outside of us, all around us? Must it just be within those weeds that we have to endure until such time as the harvest comes for heaven, and then they'll be destroyed? These pernicious things. In that view, the wheat is all around us. It's inside us. It's in our families. It's in our churches. And the wheat, or the weeds rather, it is easy to get confused, see? The weed is outside of us. The weed is not inside of us. The weed is not inside our family. The weed is not inside our church. The weed is not inside our groups. The weed is out there somewhere, away from us. But is it? Weeds and weeds, saints and sinners, whichever side we put ourselves on, they grow together. They're not separated, not until the end of time. Do you remember that movie, the movie Schindler's List? In Schindler's List, it was all about the story of Oskar Schindler, the German industrialist. He saved thousands of Polish Jews from the concentration camp. We know the story. One of the people he saved said he was our father, he was our mother, he was our hope. He never let us down. He saved us. Yet, Oskar Schindler himself was a man of two sides, a man of deception. He was not a saint. He was unfaithful to his wife. We find that out of the movie. He was a member of the Nazi Party. No surprise there. He stated, we know, that it was his ambition to end that war, to leave that war with truckloads of money. He wanted to be rich and happy when it was all over. He exploited the Jews for cheap labor so that he would come out of it rich and happy. But there came a point when a better side came to Oskar Schindler, and a basic goodness came to him. When he became appalled, when it came to him, and he became appalled at the horrors of that final solution for the Jewish people, and at considerable risk to himself, risk that involved being arrested not once but twice, he protected his workers from the death camps to the point of getting over 1,000 of them out of the country. Now, Schindler was no angel. He was a mere human being. But there was a goodness in him. He was someone of both wheat and weeds. The divided nature in him is an example to us of the divided nature that we can find in ourselves. We're not just wheat or weeds. That's the parable, what this parable discloses to us. Wheat and weeds and weeds. It's a mixture. Part of why we're told, don't separate them too early. It's only the angels who will reveal at the end of time. Only God alone who will separate at the end of time. So take the focus off yourself. Take the focus off of God, off of others, and put the focus back on God. See what God sees. It's hard to tell wheat from weeds. That's up to God. We're confident that we've become so confident that we can identify the unrighteous, but we can't. So, if the weeds and the wheat are so much alike, and if it's so confusing to tell the difference, why bother? Why doesn't God just come along and plow under the whole field and be done with a lot of us? It's not God's way. His is not a judgment based solely on our productivity. His is not a judgment based solely on what we've done wrong or what we've done right. God came to the field to be with us, to become weak with us, and wheat with us, to endure the struggle and the pain and the vexation of these weeds that the devil brought amongst us. And enduring the harvest, so that we can know that life is redeemed, how harmful sin is, and how difficult, impossible sin is to overcome. The tangle of wheat and weeds separates the good grain from the new life. And only God can do the dividing. And at that time, when the dividing comes, God will allow the righteous to shine like the sun in the kingdom of heaven. Amen.
Amen.